Hey folks, welcome to Power and Patriots. I'm joined by my guest host Bree A tonight. Also, Matt Dooley, our other co-host, has a family commitment tonight, so he can't make it, but he'll be back with us next week. So this is a show, folks, the only show in social media like it, where we tell you from media, from the military to the military, what we believe is happening in our country, our nation, our international affairs, what's going on with our forces around the world every single week, every Sunday night here on Your Voice America TV. We fly it like we stole it. So you're watching Power and Patriots. Bree Dail. Bree, welcome to the show again tonight. How you doing?
Great, Buzz. Thanks for having me back on again, of course. And we in the Navy drive it as we steal it. So.
Yeah, well, tonight, folks, we're going to talk about a lot of things going on again. This has been a very busy week. We're going to talk about this. No kidding. Oh, by the way, I'm drinking out of a plastic straw in California. So, cheers.
We're going to do what we want.
We're going to talk tonight about the hypocrisy of all hypocrisies. Dianne Feinstein, who is the ranking Democrat on the Senate Intelligence Committee, was busted yesterday for having a Chinese spy be her driver, a staffer for her for 20 years. So we're going to talk about that craziness, and also talk about why border security really matters. I mean, we talk a lot about babies on the border, Democrats wanting open borders. We talk about catch and release, a lot of those things. But why does sovereignty really matter to our nation? That's a really important topic. We'll cover that tonight. Also, Donald Trump's back out on the campaign trail, and he's been doing campaign speeches this past week. Has been drawing a lot of attention. It's so fun to watch this guy on the stage, and he's been going at the press again. So we've had, in the last couple of days, we've had Jim Acosta accost him in terms of what's going on with him in the press. And also today, Dan Rather came out with the tweet talking about how President Trump is not supportive of the media and fake news, when in fact it was Dan Rather, in my opinion, who created fake news when he created a false document and talked about it, about President George W. Bush, the sitting president at the time, and got fired for that. So we're talking about that tonight. Also, we're going to talk about, just Bree and I are going to talk about the officer's oath, what it means to take an oath of office, the same oath of office that every officer in the military, enlisted person in the military, civil servant, the same oath of office essentially that James Comey took, that John Brennan took, James Clapper took, that President Trump took. What does the oath of office actually mean? We're going to talk about that tonight in detail. We're going to break it down for you. It's going to be a fun show. So stay tuned. You're watching Power and Patriots. I'm joined by Bree Dail. I'm Buzz Patterson. We'll be back after the break. And again, we're flying it like we stole it or driving it like we stole it. Stay tuned to Power and Patriots. We'll be right back. Hey folks, welcome back to Power and Patriots. I'm Buzz Patterson. You're watching Your Voice America TV. I'm joined by Bree Dail, and this is the only show really on social media like it. This is the show where we actually produce a show for the military, by the military. We tell you what's going on from a very distinctly MAGA point of view. We are very proud patriots of our president and our service in the military. Bree and I combined have about 30 years of service in the military. Bree, tell the viewers a little bit about your background and how you got to be part of Power and Patriots.
So I was a naval surface warfare officer in the United States Navy, and which that kind of means is that I was training to eventually become a captain of a ship. My background is fully amphibious warfare, so ship-to-shore movement with the Marine Corps, a lot of joint work with them. I did operations with them as well, and in my final tour, I was an instructor on maritime engagement and crisis response. I actually taught with an ambassador, David Passage, and that was really fun. That was a fun time to be able to, start working on my master's degree. I hold a master's in diplomacy with a focus on conflict management from Norwich University. So I was doing that and teaching what I was actually being taught as well in a very practical way. So really blessed with my opportunities in the military, and I learned a lot of subject matter expertise coming out, and now I get to utilize that in my job as a contractor.
Well, thanks, Bree, for your service. It's great to have you on board. This is a great show, and I've got some great teammates here on Power and Patriots. My name is Buzz Patterson. I'm a retired Air Force colonel. I was a pilot in the Air Force. I actually came in the Air Force under President Ronald Reagan. My first combat experience was flying in the Grenada invasion. Back in 1983, I flew operations in 69 countries over my 20 years in the Air Force. Somalia, Rwanda, Haiti, the Persian Gulf. Bosnia was my claim to fame, really. I was the squadron commander for a group of Air Force pilots flying in the Bosnian operation. And then again, I was also tasked by NATO to be in charge of the airspace over the Bosnian War, and got to live in northern Italy, which wasn't a bad gig for a while there. So that was a lot of fun. In 1995, I was asked by the Clinton administration to come interview to be President Bill Clinton's military aide, Air Force military aide, and carrier of the nuclear football. I did that for 2 years, 1996 to 1998. As such, I had an office in the White House and a bedroom in the White House. I saw a lot of very interesting things, a lot of very troubling things. I was with the president by his side 24/7 on Air Force One, Marine One, the White House. Wherever we went around the world, I was with the president and carried the nuclear football, and was also responsible operationally for Air Force One, Marine One, all the White House Communication Agency folks. So there's a really large contingent of people who work, military people who work for the president. And I'm sure today with President Donald Trump, it's not any smaller than it used to be. It's probably bigger. As a result, I retired from the Air Force Academy. Retired from the Air Force. My last position was at the Air Force Academy as a commander of cadets. I retired from there in 2001 and went to work as a commercial airline pilot. Started writing books. Two of my books that you might have heard of before, Dereliction of Duty was my first book, a bestseller, that I talk about my time in the White House. It's available everywhere. Amazon.com has the best prices. You can go to my website. The prices aren't so good, but Amazon.com's got the best prices. And then my most recent book was about President Barack Obama, called Conduct Unbecoming. And his conduct certainly has been unbecoming. So that's who I am. And you've met Bree. And tonight we're going to talk about some very important topics. First and foremost, Bree, let's talk about Dianne Feinstein. So we have the Democrats getting up in arms about a meeting that Donald Trump Jr. took as the president's the presidential candidate's son at the time. He wasn't the president; he was a presidential candidate. That took with some players. Paul Manafort was there, and there were some Russian players that ostensibly was going to talk about adoption policies in Russia, and also possibly getting dirt on presidential candidate Hillary Clinton, my former boss. But we discovered yesterday, Bree, that Dianne Feinstein and her staff actually employed a Chinese spy for 20 years as both a driver and as a staff member. So we have one Trump Jr. meeting with Russia, and we have Dianne Feinstein employing a spy for 20 years. I mean, you cannot make this stuff up. So what's your take on Dianne Feinstein? And she did not tell her staff this until it came out yesterday. So there's that aspect as well. And remember, Dianne Feinstein is the ranking member for Democrats on the Senate Intelligence Committee. So, Bree, your take on Dianne Feinstein and Chinese spies?
I honestly, I can't even, as the millennials say. I just... How does this happen? Now, there seems to be a collusion type, pattern that's happening in the Democrat side that needs to be, convincingly, you need to show me the opposite is true at this point, because we have the Democratic National Committee being hacked, right? Because they were not safe with their information. What ends up happening is that we find out that we have, on the Democratic National Community, we had individuals who were working IT, and I don't remember their names. You may remember them, but these individuals working IT who end up having very serious issues and connections with the enemy overseas.
They were Pakistani nationals.
Yes.
They had
access.
Exactly.
They had access. Now we've got the ranking member of the Senate Intelligence Committee having a Chinese spy driving her around there were conversations in her car
Heck
that
yeah.
were likely classified. So now we've got that. Needless to say, just bringing it up again, but Hillary Clinton had an unsecured server that had real actual time, very sensitive material. She had her housekeeper, who was not American print, out secured. So we are at this point in our nation's history where we see a pattern of maybe dropping the ball, maybe collusion in the Democratic side on dealing with foreign nationals, where we're seeing no pattern coming from this White House on that, other than some conversation from some individuals when the president wasn't even a president. So we've got Dianne Feinstein, who has top secret, probably SCI, possibly up to Q level, security clearance, which at this point, because she's employed a Chinese spy, and she did not disclose that she employed this Chinese spy to her staff members, I would say add her name to the list, POTUS, to strip her from for her clearance at this point. We don't know what the Chinese got from her. We don't.
Yeah, and tell people that have never held a security clearance. I think this is really important that we educate our viewers in terms of, how vital and how critical intelligence and security clearances are when you have access to information. If you've never held one, you probably can't really put your arms around what it means to be a protector of vast amounts of highly secure information that may, if gotten into the wrong hands, will damage U.S. national security and possibly get people killed. So, Bree, tell us. I've had one, you've had one, Matt's had one. Tell the viewer who's never actually had a clearance how important it is that you actually pass that vetting process. Number one, to get the clearance, and number two, that you're putting your life on the line in terms of protecting that clearance, and how vitally important that is. And people like Dianne Feinstein and Hillary Clinton, who were sending classified emails across a private server, you and I would be in Fort Leavenworth breaking big rocks into small rocks right now if we had done 1/10 of what Hillary Clinton did. So, Bree, tell the viewers just how important a classified clearance is and how we have to protect that for our national sovereignty.
I had experience on board ship where we had foreign nationals. I think I told this story before. We had foreign nationals on board ship who had security clearances, but the foreign nationals did not have a need to know for some secret documentation. It was communication documentation, but it was secret, marked classified secret, that it was left on the bridge when these foreign nationals were walking around by another officer. I did not assume that watch. I chose to stand and say, I am not assuming the officer of the deck watch until this information is placed in and documented as being mishandled by the former watch. And I immediately informed the captain, as anybody should. We disposed of the material, and that individual ended up getting fired for his mishandling. It wasn't the first time that he mishandled Doc. There was a pattern there, but that's on board a ship that is secure. That was for an overabundance of caution. That actually happens. The fact that even if you're working in a secure building, that you have safes, you have multiple levels of layers of security for secure documents. That's where you can start to see how this blows the minds of those of us who hold security clearances. When you take a look at individuals who mishandle at this level of proportion. When it comes to foreign nationals spying on our soil, Buzz, it needs to be made clear to the American populace that this is happening on a regular basis. And NCIS, you can go into open source to know that here in Norfolk, recently, it was discovered that we had some of our allies actually planting agents in the malls, and it was made clear, and NCIS made made it very clear and gave us briefs on who these individuals are and some of the questions that they're asked. Very low level, but they're looking to get information from sailors who are willing to open their mouths. So we have a saying, loose lips sink ships. Yep. in the Navy, and that's why it's made very clear: do not talk about movement of ships or deployment times or how long you're going to deploy or what you do. We know that the Chinese are, consistently take photographs outside our bases, and we have responses for that. So and believe you me, we do the same. So I mean, we're doing it on both sides. But the fact that this individual got through security to be able to, like, who vetted this man for 20 years? His security clearances or his clearances to do what he was doing they came up multiple times. So don't just say like one person dropped the ball at the beginning of his career. Negative. To me, there was something going on behind the scenes to allow this man to continue to work for her. The highest ranking Democratic senator on the on the Security Council. I cannot even.
Yeah, and let's remind our viewers also that, the real collusion in all of this, the fact that the DNC server was the one that was hacked, the fact that the DNC would not turn that server over to the FBI when the FBI was investigating possible collusion on the part of Russians, that the fact that Hillary Clinton and her campaign went out and paid millions of dollars to create a reason for a FISA request to spy on the opposition campaign. So the real collusion is on the left, not the right. And I think that's Bleach bit. In and of itself,
just shows the intention was there.
Yeah, and hammers. They broke up BlackBerry devices with hammers. I mean, talk about obstruction of justice. So we have Mueller, who's investigating President Trump for his tweets because he possibly might have obstructed justice, and we have an actual obstruction of justice with Hillary and her campaign breaking devices up with hammers, bleach bitting their hard drives, and it's still to this day, the 33,000 emails that Hillary supposedly was passing on. And again, the other thing that really bothers me, Bree, is the fact that not only was she using her private computer and her private server and email address to send classified information, she was knowingly copying classified documents, taking off the designation. For people who don't understand, so a document is classified. It's going to have a confidential, a secret, a top secret. It's going to have some kind of acronym there or code name that shows you just the level of intelligence of this document has been deemed to be important. Hillary was cutting and pasting classified information from documents to her email so she could send that without the designation. So she
wasn't the originating source too. No. So people have to understand that the person who creates the document and places the classification on that document, they have access as originating sources. So in order to declassify that or lower the classification or actually add to that and create a higher classification, you have to go back to the originating source. There's a reason why there's these multi-level security bridges that you have to cross in order to do that. The fact too, Buzz, is that she CC'd POTUS.
Yes.
He knew, and he lied.
Yes.
He lied to the American people. Obama, hashtag Obama Day yesterday, Obama knew, and he lied.
Yes.
Susan Rice knew, and she lied.
Yes.
Where is the trial? How can we tell our junior people, you are going to go to Leavenworth. If you even drop the ball, you're going to lose your security clearance. You're going to get fired if you leave a document out, even if it's covered and in a folder that says secret. If you leave it out on the bridge and you don't have hands on, you're going to get fired. How can we say that that's justice to that individual when we have individuals who clearly knew? And grant this, okay? We go through security clearance, even civilians, even those who are contracts. Every year we go through OPSEC training. You want to shoot yourself in the face. It's death by PowerPoint, but we go through OPSEC training. Yeah. Purple Dragon. This is what we do. So the fact that we didn't know we were doing this wrong. Bull crap. That is the whole aspect of her intention wasn't there. That doesn't matter. There is no need to have an intention. When you drop the ball for security clearances, you go to Leavenworth.
Yes, and as a matter of fact, Bree, let me tell you, my personal experience. Most of you know that I was actually the military aide for President Bill Clinton and carried the nuclear football and lived in the White House. I used to give President Clinton and Mrs. Clinton highly classified briefings on a regular occurrence. So and she knew exactly what I was talking about. She knew exactly what the rules were. She knew exactly where the lines were drawn. There is no doubt, and this goes back 20 years ago, so there's no doubt in my mind, Bree, that she did not know exactly what she was doing. She was trying to cover up the trail in case the stuff went down in terms of the Clinton Foundation or her campaign, the stuff with Russia. She knew exactly what she was doing. There was clear intent. I can prove intent because I know her. I know what she was doing back in the 1990s. So, because I briefed her on it. And every time I would
Did anybody ask you? That's my question. Did anybody ask you?
I wish they would ask me, because every time I ever went and briefed her or her husband, I would say, Mr. President and First Lady, ma'am, I'm here. Do you understand that we're going to be talking about highly classified information here? Do you understand what the parameters are? Do you understand what this means in terms of protecting the information I'm about to give you? The information you're about to see cannot be divulged to anybody. And they would always say, yes, we got it. We're on it, no problem. So yeah, and it just blows, Bree, your point about how can we hold our junior enlisted to a standard when our Secretary of State and a presidential candidate gets away with it? How, as a commander, how do you tell a one striper, or a basic airman or seaman, you can't, I'm going to hold you to a standard, but don't worry. Mrs. Clinton did it 1,000 times over, but don't worry about that because you're going to jail if you cross the line. How do you do that? You can't as a commander. They made being a leader in the military so much more difficult because of their slanderous criminal behavior, and I'm still praying for the day that they actually end up getting held to the standard that the rest of us have to. There can only be one level of justice. There can only be everybody, not the Clintons and everybody else. So when we come back,
or we no longer have a republic. We have an oligarchy at that point.
We have an oligarchy, and we also have chaos, and in terms of how our military goes forward, how our government goes forward, and we cannot not have secrets in this country. We cannot allow anybody and everybody, Chelsea Manning, to be giving over classified information to WikiLeaks or the Russians. When we come back, we're going to take a quick break, folks. You're watching Power and Patriots. I'm joined by Bree Dail. When we come back, we're going to talk about border security and why sovereignty matters to this nation, why it's important that we have secure borders. Stay tuned. We'll be right back after a quick break. You're watching Power and Patriots. I'm Buzz Patterson, flying it like we stole it. Hey America, it's Buzz Patterson. You're watching Power and Patriots, the only show on social media like it. I'm a retired Air Force colonel, pilot, and former White House aide for President Bill Clinton. I'm joined by Bree Dail, my fabulous co-host, former Navy officer, surface warfare officer. I guess she drove things, I flew things, so we have that to dispute. But we both work with the Marines, so we got that working for us. Anyway, so you're watching Power Patriots. This segment, we're going to talk about a couple of things. Why is border security important? Why does it really matter if we have tightened borders? Why it's important to our sovereignty, or is it? We'll talk about that. We're also going to talk about President Trump's latest throwdown with the media, Jim Acosta's performance at the Trump rally in Tampa, Florida earlier this week, and then Dan Rather, of all people, Dan Rather, the guy that got fired for fake news, calling out President Trump for accusing the media of having fake news. Seriously, you can't make this stuff up. So, Bree, your concept of sovereignty, why? We have borders. We have borders for a reason. Every country has borders for a reason. And Democrats want open borders. Why? Because they want more votes. They realize that they're losing. They've lost the mainstream America. They've lost middle America. They're also losing, by the way, the union towns in the north and the Midwest, because they're voting now Republican because their jobs are coming back. Steel's coming back. Cars are coming back. So those people are jumping the fence and voting for Republicans also. But Democrats, especially here in California, where I live, not proud of it. Democrats want open borders because they want illegal streaming across the border. But and border security is national security. Let there be no doubt. If you have border security, you have national security. So, Bree, what's your take on Democrats and where we go? Do we get the wall built finally? And why are Dems jumping on this open border thing?
Well, remember when Obama, on his first term, said he wanted to fundamentally change the face of this nation, right? Yes. He wanted to fundamentally change. What does that mean? We need to step back and take a look, because he actually, he revealed the progressive mantra at that point, what their intentions are, their agenda, and it's really interesting because George Soros, with his Open Borders, foundation, is really focused on doing that, not only in the United States but abroad, is pushing this idea of open borders. Why? To fundamentally change the republic, to fundamentally change the idea of sovereignty, to bring about this idea for you can hear from conspiracy theorists, but this has been for decades now, this idea of this new world order, this new fundamental, oligarchy of the powerful elite uniting into this world type government, and what's really interesting is that is already happening in Europe. Yes. We are seeing this happen in Europe, except for some of the eastern states. Much of Europe is enduring this open border policy. So if you want to see if this works, just take a look at what's happening in Europe. Crime is up, rape is up, education is down. People who are going in and actually paying taxes into the country, which is really part of the idea for sovereignty, that's going away. Instead, there's higher taxes on those who are left, who are citizens, in order to pay for all of the benefits for those who are not. That's happening all throughout Europe. And then let's talk about the Peace of Westphalia. That's a treaty from back in, I believe, the 1600 time frame. But the Peace of Westphalia, why that came about was because there were countries that were trying to interfere and change the fundamental foundation of religion in the countries, right? So that's also happening in Europe, where you've got a vast majority of the individuals coming over from these countries are Muslim, and yet they're claiming that this is for war-torn reasons. The churches, the Christian denominations, there was a report that just is out that the UK took 0 Christian minorities from these countries, and instead has allowed those who have come into their country to really change the face of what was once a Christian nation is now a vast majority is either Muslim or are atheists. So yes, fundamental change to a country is being seen, and that's why you see countries such as Italy and Poland now rejecting that notion that their sovereignty somehow should be violated for this idealism. So take a look. We are lucky in the United States to be bordered by 2 vast oceans. So we don't have the same kind of concerns on that end of boats coming over and people trying to get in as much as they do in Europe. But we do have 2 borders that are quite porous, one being down in Mexico. And obviously the Mexicans too are really missing out, because you've got individuals who are wanting to work and to build up an economy. If Mexico had a good economy, if Mexico had a place where people wanted to stay and not so much crime, perhaps they would go there instead of the United States. And that is something also that we talked off screen about. The president of Ghana, you can look this up. The president of Ghana, when Macron was there visiting Ghana, the president of Ghana came out and said, we don't want the Western nations anymore telling us how we should run and how we should prosper. We don't want the Western, it hasn't worked. We are no longer your colony. We want to have our own innovation. We want the energy of these men who are finding ways to get over to Europe in order to build, a life for themselves, to come to Ghana and build their lives there. It was a really fascinating, and I recommend people listening to him to really ponder that, these places can and should be self-sufficient. And that's sovereignty.
Yeah, if you could tweet that out again, Bree, that link to Ghana's president, and that brings up a really good point. If we really care about these countries, if we really care about the people of these countries, why aren't we, advocating that they keep their talent in the country? Why aren't we advocating that they keep, that their potential, the workers, the thinkers, the doers? Why don't we? Well, for example, if you're Mexico or El Salvador or Honduras, you want. I would think you would want to hold on to your human capital. You would want to have the best of the best and keep those people from crossing the borders instead of exporting all these people. And again, it gets back to the very reason why we were founded. I mean, this country was founded because we had people who were escaping, things, but they did it the right way. They did it legally, and we built a system that we could take in talent, and that's why I fully support President Trump's. He wants immigrants to have a value-added capability to the nation, which is exactly what Canada does, Australia does. Most first world countries, if I can use that term without being derogatory, most first world countries have a credit-based or a merit-based immigration system. We do too, but we're not allowed to enforce it because of the policies of the left, and it's gotten beyond the point where at this point now we have been invaded, and we've got to stop the invasion. Otherwise, this country.
I brought this up multiple times. It is all about money. It is all about money, which is one of the reasons why I tweeted out my friend Edward Penton's article on following the money in Italy. So the Italians right now are calling out and saying, we want to follow where this money is going from the Vatican, pushing this idea of open borders, because this is what the Vatican is doing right now. They're going toe to toe with which is not uncommon with the secular government, but what's really concerning is the Vatican's on the wrong side on this,
right.
Pushing this whole idea of open borders. And yet, look what happened a few months ago with the individuals from the United States Council of Catholic Bishops here in the United States pushing the same mantra. I really recommend people taking a look and seeing, where is that money coming from? Where's the money coming from where these individuals are pushing this ideology, this seamless garment? Because I guarantee you there's a connection there with Soros. And there has been connections with Soros in the past with the USCCB. And our investigative journalist, Chris Lemon, has done some really stellar work in being able to show that linkage. But they're getting a little bit smarter in covering their trails. Not that much smarter, but they are. But I would highly recommend, anytime you see, Edward Penton tweet out about things that are going on with the finances, example, the Vatican Bank offshoring, take a look at these things, because they're smoke screening the heck out of him when it comes to stuff like that, which means he's on to something pretty big.
Yeah, brilliant points, Bree. As we go to break here, we've got about a minute and a half, a little more than a minute and a half. Very quickly, we're going to talk about Jim Acosta and Dan Rather. Both of them this week attacking Jim Acosta, actually attacking Sarah Sanders, and she just beat him down like a I'm not going to go there, but she just beat him down like the little infant he is, the little whiny biatch that he is. And then Dan Rather coming out and tweeting today or yesterday about the fact that President Trump is attacking the Constitution and is making the media the enemy. And in fact, no, Dan Rather and Jim Acosta, all we really expect, I tweeted about this today, is you guys be responsible in your journalism. All we really expect, excuse me, is that you guys tell the truth. When I went to journalism school when I was in college, it was the 5 W's: who, what, where, when, and why. How about you guys stick to that and not advocate about about your own beliefs. So you're watching Power and Patriots. This is Buzz Patterson. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back with our final segment. Stay tuned. Power and Patriots. Hey folks, it's Buzz Patterson. Welcome back to Power and Patriots. I'm joined by Bree A. This is the only show on social media like it. It's a very fast hour of military news from the military for the military. Tonight, Matt Dooley's off, but Bree's with me as we've been talking about all the things that affect our military, our nation, our national security, our future as we go forward. Again, the only show like it in social media. And we're very thankful for your viewership. In fact, after this segment, we're going to have the 20-minute segment for memberships only, so members only. So please stay tuned after the segment for the members only 20-minute segment as we wrap up. We're going to talk about the oath of office, what it actually means for both military officers and enlisted in our services. And I'm talking about Air Force, Army, Navy, Marines, Coast Guard, all of our services. And in fact, it's very similar to the oath of office that our civil servants take to serve, and President Trump as well. Bree, where can folks find you, follow you, and in your social media, and how can they get in touch with you?
So you can always drop me a direct message on Twitter, and I try to respond to those pretty quickly. It's at Bree A. Dail, and I tweet about religion, I tweet about politics, I tweet about war. So, all of the conversations and discomfiture, as Matt likes to call them, I like to talk about. So, the impolite topics. So definitely follow me on that. I am on Instagram, and I'm also on Facebook. But I've got a lot going on. So Facebook, it tends to be the one that I respond least to. So definitely connect with me on Twitter.
And what are you working on right now? What are you doing other than Power and Patriots?
So thank you for letting me know that. I'm going to plug in. We are doing an international national campaign called Rosary Coast to Coast. It's starting August 14th, and it's going to culminate in a worldwide event on October the 7th, which is the Feast of Our Lady of the Rosary, and also the Battle of Lepanto. So look that up and see why that's really important. But countries from all over the world are going to be joining us. You can definitely go to our website. It's rosarycoasttocoast.com. And if you are out of the country and would like to get more information, go to theholyleagueofnations.com. holyleagueofnations.com. So really excited. We've gotten incredible endorsements, including one recently from Cardinal Burke, who is an incredible man and a fantastic leader in the Catholic Church. Despite all the scandals that are going on, he is one of the good ones.
Well, thanks for that, Bree. Thanks for your service there as well, not only to our military, but also to the Catholic Church. I'm Buzz Patterson, retired Air Force officer. Spent 20 years. You can find me on Twitter at Buzz Patterson. You can find me on Facebook at Buzz Patterson or Buzz Patterson Live. You can find me on Instagram at Buzz Patterson Live. And it's kind of redundant, but that's who I am, and that's what I do. And I will get back to you as soon as I possibly can. I do have several books out, 2 bestsellers. You can find, again, Dereliction of Duty, about my time with the Clinton administration, carrying the nuclear football in the White House, living there with President Bill and Hillary Clinton. It's a good read. It's fun. The best places to find those is on Amazon.com, and also my most recent one talks about Barack Obama, Conduct Unbecoming, and how that man messed up our nation. And thank God we have Donald J. Trump following in his footprint, because I can tell you, as somebody who used to work for the Clintons and Hillary Clinton, I cannot imagine the damage that she would have done with 8 years on the heels of Barack Obama. So thank God we've got Donald Trump in office, and we'll bring that news to you, military news from a Trump perspective, every single Sunday night here at Power and Patriots, Your Voice American. TV. And stay tuned for the members. Again, if you haven't joined yet, please join. Hit that little membership button down there and join so you can watch your Voice America every single night and get Power and Patriots. And if you're a member already, stay tuned. We'll be right back after a quick break. We'll give you the 20-minute additional bonus time, and Bree and I are going to talk about the oath of office and what it really means to the military. And God bless you guys. See you soon. Take care. We'll be right back after the break. Adios. Hey everybody, it's Buzz Patterson. You're watching Power and Patriots, the only show on social media like it, which is a show by the military for our military, and we bring to you all the pertinent issues and topics of the day as it relates to our nation, to our president, to international affairs and national security. I'm joined by my co-host Bree A. Bree, welcome back for the bonus section.
Thank you.
And we're going to talk now. A lot of people don't understand, Bree. And in fact, I think there's probably a lot of senators and congressmen and former FBI directors. They don't understand what the oath of office actually means. So I'm going to read what this is actually Air Force specific, so don't get your feelings hurt about the Navy. But you can put in Navy or Marine Corps, whatever, where it says Air Force. But I'm going to read the oath of office that those of us in the Air Force who have served have to take. And it's pay attention, folks, please, to the words, and then we're going to break it down and talk about what it really means to pledge an oath of office to your nation and to your country. So my name, having been appointed a lieutenant in the United States Air Force, do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. Very important. That I will bear truth, faith, and allegiance to the same. That I will take this obligation freely, without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties of the office upon which I'm about to enter. So help me God. Now, that is not just something, folks, that we do lightly. It's how we are commissioned the first time and commissioned, every subsequently when we stay in the forces and have to deliver our oath of office. It's something that we hold very near and dear to our heart. Now, the part of this that I think is particularly important is that we pledge truth, faith, and allegiance to the same, meaning our country, and that we solemnly swear to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And I think the domestic side of this is really important when people talk about the deep state. What's going on right now with the FBI and with Mueller, with what happened with Barack Obama and Susan Rice and Loretta Lynch. I think that those are enemies domestic. Bree, what is your take on the oath, and what does it mean to you personally?
When you were reading it, I was, saying it in my mind as well, and I think my lips were moving. So sorry about that, but
it's okay.
It is such a heavy oath to make. I mean, number one, to swear an allegiance, an oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States. In taking this not lightly, no purpose of evasion. This is right. What you're looking to do, and fully know what you're making oath to. This is, to me, one of the greatest things that I've done. One of the most honorable things that I could have possibly done was to take that oath seriously. And what really concerns me is this whole aspect of individuals who don't take this seriously, who instead, seek to evade, right. And during a time of war, because we are still in a time of war, ladies and gentlemen, and frankly, during certain wars, the Revolutionary War being one of them, but we can take a look at any war that we had up until the 20th century. If during a time of war you did what Hillary Clinton did, if you did that, what you end up doing is you get caught for it. You are put to death. That was the judgment, and right. That there's a history of that in our country. And so to take a look at what has occurred during the Obama administration, and frankly, what has occurred in this deep state. And, it was funny. The other night, I unfortunately, in where I work, they had CNN on, so I got to hear that drivel, and just ridiculousness. But they had individuals, interviewing people in line to see our POTUS, right? Yeah. And they, many of these individuals were carrying the Q card or having Q on their T-shirt, and hearing these journalists just mocking people on Q and saying this is a fringe thing, and people conspiracy theories and blah blah blah. That these conspiracy theories, so to speak, would not exist if there wasn't ample proof that there has been undermining of our president. And a perfect example was what we talked about today with the security clearances and the fact that people are up in arms with our POTUS saying we're going to strip individuals from security clearances because they have not obeyed their oath of office and instead have utilized their clearances for their own personal gain. And so it's bizarre to me to think that that individuals who will take this oath will then deem to no longer uphold it, and it just, to me, and once you take an oath like that, you take the oath, and it's there forever, which is the reason why we have the brotherhood, right?
Absolutely, and I would argue, Bree, just to take one of your points further, I think we're always at war, especially in this country. I think we're always at war. What I term the fifth column. I think we are always at war in this country for people who want to undermine our Constitution, our government, and bring us down. And I point to popular culture, the Hollywood types. I point to our media. You can see what's happening right now today with CNN and MSNBC. Those are not. I consider those to be domestic enemies, personally speaking. You see our politicians. And I know for sure. I speak on a lot of college campuses for Young Americans for Freedom and Young Americans Foundation. I can tell you for sure our academia has been invaded, going back to probably about the late 1950s, early 1960s, and the Vietnam War advent. And so I know we're fighting a war against that too. The people who are indoctrinating our youth in not only colleges, but in high schools now, and it goes down into the middle schools now and reaching into elementary school. So I would argue that we're
the straw law. The straw law that just happened in California.
Exactly.
It was made up by a student who was being indoctrinated. Do what we want, right? We do what we want. Just drink out of that. But reality is that, we've talked about this. Franklin School came in during the 1920s, and they targeted, Bella Dodd spoke about this, they targeted the culture. They targeted religion. Bella Dodd said, she put 1,100 seminarians into seminary and Catholic seminaries who were communists. They didn't want to become priests because God was calling them. They were looking to infiltrate. Those individuals then ended up becoming, the individuals who were leaders during that time, and they were the ones who ordained individuals like McCarrick, who we just saw. Do these individuals believe? Not at all. They were looking to, again, fundamentally change. Are we seeing that happen? Yeah, it's happening in the church. It's happening in society. Fundamental change in education. No longer learning about history. Instead, the kids are learning about communist indoctrination, and Soros and has pushed this. And people say this is conspiracy theory, but you can see that the proof is in the pudding. The fact that Saul Alinsky taught Hillary Clinton is the reason why Hillary Clinton spews what she spews in the way of the Alinsky 12 Rules for Radicals.
That's right. And they know that they know, if you go back and read Rules for Radicals and go back to most communist texts back in the 50s and 60s, they know, and they're brilliant at this, Bree, that they know that they go after the major institutions. They go after the church. They go after schools. They go after of course, the political landscape in terms of the parties that are involved, popular media. Go after that. So they know if you go after, and they're going after the military. And I'm working on a new book right now that talks about how our military, how our Pentagon has been so politicized. It was, Obama did a great job purging a lot of war fighters out of our Pentagon, and we have a lot of people in our Pentagon carrying over right now who are Obama people who don't believe in they don't believe in doing the best thing they possibly can for the warfighter. What they want to do is fundamentally change the military so that we allow, transgender, we allow anybody to have a sexual preference. We allow the military is now paying for sex change operations. At the same time, chaplains cannot invoke Jesus Christ in a ceremony.
No.
I mean, how crazy is that?
Catholic chaplains, who are the only ones who are able to administer last rites in war, I knew of a Catholic chaplain who committed suicide, unfortunately, who helped so many Marines and sailors because of PTSD. He had gone back to back during the Afghan war and to Iraq, and no one was helping him in the military. So, the chaplains who need the help as well, because they hear all of this, death and sadness and divorce and everything that comes along. No one was helping him in the archdiocese of the military, and he paid the ultimate price for that. But what you just said was something that's absolutely parallel to what's happening in the Catholic Church, right? The fear there for individuals to speak up, and Matt could speak about this, but the fear there for individuals to speak up and say, no, this is wrong, took place during the Obama administration as much as it's taken place in the Catholic Church today. So this aspect of getting to points up and positions of power, and then, advancing those who carry the water with you, for you and your agenda, that is what is happening. And the fact that President Trump was able to get in office, to me, it was a miracle, because that it was almost ordained as such that Hillary Clinton would become the next oligarch in the United States, and it didn't happen. So going back to our oath of office, to support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. Buzz, you and I have had this conversation. Matt and I have had this conversation. Who makes that call? I still don't know who makes that call as a military officer. Who makes that call? If in the ranks we have individuals who are looking to, like you said, fundamentally change the face of the military, make our military weaker, not stronger, and make the Catholic Church weak and not strong in what it believes. It's the same thing. It's the Communist Manifesto. Mm-hmm. They are seeking to uproot the fundamental principles of the United States. And we need to stand. We need to stand before it's too late.
Yeah, and I think it's up to us individually, Bree, to answer your question. I think we individually make the call. I individually make the call that I think we've got enemies, foreign and domestic. I see them domestically all the time. I'll tell a quick story about, when I was at the Air Force Academy, I was a commander of cadets at the Air Force Academy. So I had thousands of cadets who were amazing young men and women, and most of them, not all, but most, at the Air Force. We had a beautiful chapel. It's still there. It's a gorgeous chapel at the Air Force Academy in Colorado Springs. If you ever get a chance to go there, you got to go. It's phenomenal. It's got, it's the only place in the Air Force that has a Protestant, a Catholic, and a Jewish synagogue in the same location. Yeah. But when I was there, we had to allow. So what happened was Wiccans who worship Earth, or for lack of a better, look it up and Google it. But people who don't understand, don't worship a Savior or God as we understand Him to be, they protested and were allowed to use the same chapel during the hours to do their witchcraft, essentially, as it was. But we were forced to, by the Air Force leadership, forced us to allow Wiccans access to this gorgeous chapel at the Air Force Academy. And that's when I realized that, this was during the Clinton years, my last assignment in the Air Force. I realized we had just kind of, we had tipped over. We were no longer the military that I grew up in, that was all about the war fighter and value added and global reach and making everything best for the people, the men and women on the ground doing the job. We were now all about making sure we kowtowed and placated any cause whatsoever, no matter how few people were involved. We were all about now being politically correct. And I think it's gotten worse since I left there. I know it's gotten worse, as a matter of fact. So we have the Pentagon now is full of placaters. We're full of, okay, if you've got 1% of the, our 2.3 million in uniform right now that wants to do one thing, we're going to have to bend over and allow that to happen. Even if it hurts our readiness, our effectiveness, our logistical train, Dail, whatever. We're now going to let that 1% dictate how the rest of us do our jobs.
And meanwhile, I was talking with a few sailors while I was in line for 8 hours the other day. I was in line trying to get a CAC card. I could tell you stories of that. But I was talking with a few sailors who are on board ships that should have been decommissioned 10 years ago. One of those ships, I won't name it, had stag lights growing in the main reduction gears. If you know anything about engineering, you know that that's pretty bad when you have water in the main reduction gears. I had a sailor tell me, ma'am, we would clean the oil out of the bottom of which that runoff is known, but we would clean the oil and the bottom from the MRGs, and then two or 3 hours later, we'd go back and we'd find metal shards in there. Metal shards coming off of the MRGs. They are having to run these ships to the ground right now, and yet we are allocating thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars into research and development for PC movements and, sex changes, and that does not strengthen the warfighter. That's one of the reasons why many people have really enjoyed the fact that Mattis has come in, because Mattis is all about the warfighter. But we cannot, and this is something that one of the sailors said, ma'am, we cannot continue to live a year budget at a time. We cannot do that in the military. No. You cannot plan 3 years in advance for something if you only have a budget for a year and you don't know if you're going to have that budget next year. So we are really finding ourselves and shooting ourselves in the foot.
Yeah, because you know what, for non-military folks to understand this, we have to be able to force project and to train and to provide the logistic support for ships, airplanes, tanks, whatever it is. And I can tell you right now, the Air Force has several squadrons that are grounded because there's not enough spare parts to get the airplanes back in the air. And there's not enough training time for the guys and girls to be proficient in their flying. So we're getting a lot more airplanes downtime, a lot more ships with downtime. We've been piecing them together with duct tape, for years and years and years. And it's because the Congress will not get off their butt and actually pass a long-range bill that will provide for our services. And you're right, you cannot, as a fighting force, the biggest, most important, most powerful fighting force in the world, you cannot just fund them piecemeal. It cannot be paycheck to paycheck for our military. It's got to be something we plan for, we fund. I think Trump's the right guy to get that done. But we took an 8-year hiatus under President Obama. President George W. Bush was not much better in terms of that. Clinton took another 8 years off too. We really haven't funded our military, in my mind, in a healthy way since George H.W. Bush was the president after Ronald Reagan. So it's been that long. We've created a hollow force, and we're asking our guys and girls to do more and more and more with less and less and less. And it's unfair.
Support and defend, right?
Exactly,
support and defend, right? How are you supposed to support and defend?
Yeah.
How are you supposed to do that when you have no money to be able to do that and you have no equipment to do that?
And we stretched them out. How many countries are we in right now militarily? We're all over the globe. Because if you're going to fight the evils of Islamic fundamentalism, you're going to be in places like Northern Africa and in Afghanistan and Malaysia and the Philippines and in Korea, South Korea and Japan and Germany and England. The Horn of Africa. That's where all the stuff's going down, and these guys and girls are out there for a long time, and we've got to be able to feed them, fund them, take care of their families, and give them the equipment they need to get the job done, because that has
the training, right?
Yes, the training.
And the training. Training that, like Matt Dooley did in anti-jihad, and being able to train our individuals to know thy enemy. He was punished for that.
Yes, he was.
That kind of work is exactly the reason why Buzz and I are talking about this PC culture today, and how it is the antithesis of the oath that we make, and that the individuals who served under us make.
Yeah, and that's why this show is so important, Bree. Folks are watching Power and Patriots and Your Voice America. Matt and Bree and I will be here every Sunday night talking to you, bringing you the real scoop about what's happening with our military. unveiling the dirty truths that nobody else wants to talk about. The fact that our men and women out there in uniform who proudly serve us really aren't being provided for in the way. I mean, I came into President Ronald Reagan. That was a great time to be in the military and to be a pilot in the Air Force, because the Air Force, Reagan resurrected us from the ashes of Jimmy Carter, and we needed that. Now we've got President Trump doing that. He's only 2 years in. We've got 6 more years to go, God willing, and I think we're going to get there. But this is the place to come, folks. Power and Patriots every Sunday night. We're going to bring you the truth, what's going on with our military. So very, very thankful you joined us tonight. Again, every single Sunday night we're going to be here. If you're not a member yet, go ahead and click on the membership button. Join us. And Bree, again, one more time really quickly where folks can follow you and your great work.
Twitter at Bree A. Dail. Please definitely follow me, retweet me, engage with me, drop me a DM, and I'll do the same.
And I'm at Buzz Patterson on Twitter, at Buzz Patterson on Facebook. Folks, until next time, God bless you guys. Fly it like you stole it. We'll see you next week. Take care.